for example, by limiting the options to the government for assistance from the industry in whatever form a future problem takes. Current government enforcement actions are raising significant questions about the willingness of institutions in the future to take on the risks in assisting the government in emergency situations. So, accepting at least arguendo that the government was actively involved in making some of our largest banks more complex and larger, what are we to do today about the situation of large, complex banks? Well, I suggest we have a legislative determination on that with some specificity in the Dodd-Frank Act. And as Rick outlined in his comments, the Dodd-Frank Act provides in Title II a new regime for making institutions, large institutions, subject to a resolution regime that will minimize the disruption to the financial system. And I also believe, as Rick indicated and Michael indicated, that the single point of entry, particularly when combined with the notion of a required minimum loss-absorbing capacity, is the single most promising development in years in this area. Secondly, again, as Rick outlined, the Dodd-Frank Act specifically directs the regulators to impose higher prudential requirements, higher capital, higher liquidity, stricter counterparty limits on the institutions. Third, again, as Rick outlined, the Dodd-Frank Act requires the largest institutions to develop living wills, and with that comes the possibility of requirements to simplify their structure, either on their own, as Michael indicated, Citigroup has already done, or in some cases, perhaps with strong encouragement and direction from the regulators. Fourth, the Dodd-Frank Act includes provisions such as the Volcker Rule and the push-out rule on swaps, which are intended both to limit certain types of risk-taking activities or to segregate and ring-fence the risk-taking activities. Fifth, there are a host of new requirements in Title VII on derivatives, over-the-counter derivatives, which affect in particular the way the largest banks act as dealers. Sixth, there are statutory and regulatory requirements for early remediation by the largest institutions, again requiring further restrictions on their size and activities. So in sum, there is a comprehensive set of measures that the Congress has elected to impose to address size and complexity. And those measures are all currently in the process of being finalized. And so I believe that the Congress represents in Dodd-Frank a legislative judgment as to how we should be dealing with the most large and most complex institutions. And let me just end by saying that I look forward. Today we're considering the road traveled, assessing Dodd-Frank 5 years after the crisis. I personally look forward to coming back with all of you 10 years from now, so we can do the 15th annual Dodd-Frank Review Crisis. And with that, I'll turn it back to our moderator.
Well, thanks to all of you for very interesting presentations.